All right, I just want to shoot a quick video just to kind of go over the adding a iSCSI device into ESXi onto your ESXi host. This kind of piggybacks onto what we did last week with the network adapter. We're going to make some changes there with that network adapter. We have to make it a vkernel, VM kernel adapter. We'll show you how to do that. And we'll also show you how to set up our network attached storage. In this case, we're using a product called FreeNAS. You see right here the login screen for FreeNAS. Just note first before we log in the IP address. So you have your pod numbers. In this example, I'm using pod 8. So normally our addresses from the spreadsheet are 10.22.2 pod number 8.1 would be host 1, 82 would be host 2, so on and so forth. The iSCSI network we're keeping separate, so all of our storage access is going to be on a separate IP network. This is a different VLAN. So we have to change that third octet from a 2 to a 3. And then the FreeNAS setup is on the .4, so it's pod number 4 of that particular host. So in this case, 10.22.3.84 will be our FreeNAS. Okay, I'm logging in. The username is root. The password is the same VMware password that we've been using for the rest of our hosts. And this will launch the dashboard. A couple things real quick. First off, we're going to look at storage, and we need to make sure that our large drive, in this case we have a 4 terabyte drive in there that we're going to be using for storage. It's showing just under that, about 3.64 terabytes. But we have to make a note of the name. That name is 1. Depending upon how these drives appear on that SATA chain there, it could be ADA0 or ADA1. So just make a note of whichever drive is your largest drive here. You want to make a note of that name, and we're going to use that here when we build the iSCSI target here. Okay, after that, before we get into actually building that, we need to enable iSCSI. So basically we go under services. These are all the services that are running on FreeNAS. You'll see one here is called iSCSI, so we're going to enable that. So now it's running. And we're also going to check the start automatically box. So in case this box ever gets rebooted, it will always come up with iSCSI running. Okay. All right, so now we can actually build that target. So we're going to go to sharing. We're going to say block shares iSCSI. And here is our global configuration. So we have to actually build it from the base up. So the first thing we have to do is point it to a particular drive. So I'm going to click on the extents tab here. There is nothing in here. I'm going to click on add. I'm going to give it a name. In this case, I'm just going to call it VM-extents. We have to give it a device. In this case, make sure that it's the large drive showing up there. So in this case, mine was ADA1. So I click on that. And that's all we do on this particular page. So we hit save. So now we've created our extents, and we're pointing it to the right disk. Now from there, we go to the initiators tab. Click on initiators, we hit add. We have to allow all initiators and hit save. And notice here we have a group ID of 1. We're going to click on the portals tab at the top. We're going to hit add. For description, we're going to say VM-portal. Okay, we are not going to be doing any type of CHAP, no authentication at all. Our auth group, we're going to also leave blank, but the IP address, we're going to select the IP that is on this network, which in this case is the iSCSI network, the 10.22.3. whatever network. We're going to leave the port number alone. and we're going to hit save. And now we've had our port group ID, and now we are listening on this IP address via that. Okay. Next, we're going to click on the Targets tab, and now we're going to tie everything together. So we've got our extents, our initiator, and our portal. So we're going to go to Target and actually build the target now. So target dash target. Okay, the group name is going to be the VM portal one that we just created. Group initiator ID is going to be the one under the initiators that we did. Auth method, we're not going to authenticate. So we don't have to have a auth method or group number. So we just hit save. Okay, once we created a target, then we need to go over to associated targets. Click add. Target name is the VM target. LUN ID, LUN 0. Extent is the VM extent. Hit save. And now we just created our LUN. And now we go into, and I'm going to actually log in to vCenter. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is go to my host number 1. So we have host 1 listed here. I want to click on that. I want to click on configure. Okay, before we click on these, set up the storage piece here, we have to set up that networking piece at vSwitch. You may have already had a vSwitch built. If you do, that's fine. We're just going to click on virtual switches here. In this case, we don't. So I'm going to add networking. I'm going to actually add a VM kernel network adapter. Okay, because if you look under here, this includes all of our additional administration, management network, our iSCSI, fiber channel, vSAN, all that stuff is listed here. So we want that VM kernel port. Hit next. If you already have the vSwitch 1 built that points to that USB NIC, we are good to go. Just click on the existing standard switch, and you want to choose the vSwitch that goes to the NIC card, the USB NIC card. In this case, it's not been added, so I'm just going to click on New Standard Switch, hit Next. I have to add a physical adapter. In this case, I only have one left. That's my virtual USB 0 here. Highlight that, hit OK. It should pull up 1 gig, full duplex, auto negotiate, and we're good to go. Hit next. Network label, we can call this whatever we want. Because I'm using it for iSCSI, I'm going to actually write in there iSCSI. VLAN ID, I'm going to keep alone. I'm going to keep it IPv4, VMTU, or anything like that. So let's go hit next. IPv4 settings. We actually specify an IP address on this VNIC that is part of the iSCSI network. So that's that 10.22.3 network. So I'm going to say use static IPv4 settings. Okay, in this case, 10.22.3, that's the iSCSI network. And because I'm on host 1, I can use the host 1's digit, so 81. Subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Leave everything else alone. We're not going to have to set up a default gateway. This traffic will never leave this iSCSI network. Hit next, and then finish. And you'll see here it'll create this new standard switch. We can expand that, and now we can see our VM kernel port for iSCSI going to my USB NIC card. And I've got green port lights, which means I'm connected. Okay, now we click on storage adapters. Right now, nothing is added as far as iSCSI. So we click on Add Software Adapter. And we want to add software iSCSI adapter. Hit OK. And you'll see a new HBA be installed. Here we go. VM HBA 64. That's my guy. Okay, so this is my initiator. And we know the target that we're trying to go to is this guy right here in FreeNAS. So I want to click on that software adapter. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to verify that it is enabled, up and running. I should not have any devices yet, nor should I have any paths yet, because I haven't discovered anything. So I'm going to go to Dynamic Discovery. I'm going to click on Add. Put in the fully qualified domain name or IP address. So this is going to be the IP address of FreeNAS. That's the one that we set up under the iSCSI target. So in this case, it's 10.22.3.3084. Try tricking me there. My port number, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to hit OK. It added it here, but now say due to recent configuration changes, a rescan of that HBA is recommended. So I'm going to say rescan adapter. And she's done. Now, once you click on static discovery, you should see here that it found that FreeNAS out there because we put it to that IP address. I want to bind that to a network port, so I'm going to click Add. I want to make sure we always use this iSCSI reswitch, so I'm using the VUSB 0. Hit OK. And we got to rescan again. Okay, once we've done a rescan complete, you'll notice here we have target of 1, so we are pointing to the NAS. We have 1 device found, and there's 2 paths, so we can click our properties here were enabled, our devices. It does bring up the FreeNAS. It shows that there's about 4 terabytes of disk space left. We have not consumed any of that yet, which means we have not assigned a data store to it yet. Operation state attached, and we are good to go. It's an iSCSI transport. So now we click on storage devices. And you'll notice here we have the FreeNAS iSCSI disk showing up here. Okay. So we are good to go there. Now we click on storage. We go to our data center. We click on storage, new data store. Type is VMFS. Hit next. Name of data store, I'm going to call it FreeNAS. Select a host. We're going to do host 1. And we should see the FreeNAS because we've added it to that host now. Okay, hit next. We're going to make sure it's formatted with VMFS version 6. Hit next. We're going to do the full partition. So in this lab environment, we're going to set up all 3 host machines to be able to talk to the same partition. That way, we're really only using it for storing our VMs, for doing vMotion and all that. But if you wanted to create this partition smaller, maybe you only wanted to have 1 terabyte for all your vMotion and your HA and all that, you could have another 2+ terabytes for individual data stores for individual VMs. You could do that here as well. Just specify the total data store size. In this case, we're going to use the whole thing. So go ahead and hit next. Ready to complete, hit finish. And you'll see here it's creating that data store, and part of what it's doing is it's actually going to be formatting the FreeNAS so we can start to use it. Boom, it's complete. Now we have a new data store called FreeNAS. So we are good to go. Clicking on host 1 again to summary. Notice my storage has ballooned out to now almost 4 terabytes. If I click on host 2, which we've not done yet, you'll notice that I still have my normal 337 gig. So I just have the disk that's in the box, whereas here it has the disk in the box plus the new FreeNAS iSCSI storage. Well, I can also click on data stores and it'll tell me which data stores are on this host. Click on host 2, there's only the one data store. So hopefully this makes sense. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. But I want you to do this with all 3 of your hosts. So continue to add the exact same way. You're going to add the same storage volume, and that way we can start doing HA. We can put our VM images out there and then start doing some vMotion and some things like that. All right, so hopefully you don't have any questions, but if you do, feel free to reach out. You can reach me in chat as always. Thank you.